Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 24th of January. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Guys, in the today's video, we will be taking up the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper as well as we will also be taking up the good articles from the Indian Express explained section and the explainer PDF that I will use here. Such explainer PDF you can download from our Telegram channel. The link has been given in the description box. Now, first of all, let's see the overview of the important articles so that so to understand that which news articles are relevant for our examination. Now, first of all, let's see the Indian Express explained section. So first article is talking about the subsidy bill, which has increased enormously in this particular financial year. So we will be understanding the reasons behind such a kind of a thing. Could be an important thing with respect to the Indian economy related issues. Then the appeal of him abide with me. So abide with me was a tune that was basically tuned on the Republic Day, but it has been dropped this year. So such kind of thing has been discussed. However, with respect to the examination, much of important things are not there into this article. Then the comments in India that led to removal of Germany's Navy chief. So Germany's Navy chief, while in one of an address in India in New Delhi, had said that the President Putin in Russia needs more respect and he will not annex the Ukraine. So such kind of thing has been there. Again, not important for our examination. Then further we will be moving to the Hindu newspaper. So in the Hindu newspaper we have one this text and the context page, and here there are the two important articles that have been given which are directly relevant for our examination. The proposal for Indian Environmental Service, so the TSR Subramaniam report we will be seeing here. Then the shared parenting concept we will be seeing here. Fine, important one. Then further moving on, after that guys, here we can see that the elephant corridors to be restored. So the man animal conflict will see this into this particular article. Then after that the other articles not very much important with respect to our examination. Then further the city section, fine, it is containing the COVID trends etc. Not important. The advertisements, again nothing important in this direction has been given. Then guys, further moving on, so after as we move, we will be reaching to the editorial section. So in between the such things have been there, not relevant. Now in the editorial section, the first article is talking about a chance to support the growth and fiscal consolidation. So we will see this particular article with respect to the Indian economy. Then decoding the 2022 elections and the script of 2024. Now this is a political article talking about the strategies of the different political parties, not important for the exam. Then the false dichotomy. So this is talking about the recent the Supreme Court's Supreme Court's ruling, where the Supreme Court had said that the quotas are not the violation of equity. Then a stellar fallacy. Now this particular article, it is talking about the recent decision that has been taken, where it has been said that the state environment impact assessment, it is needed to be expedited. Then further moving on, budget for the education emergency. So it is talking that why there needs to be given there is a need to give an enhanced focus on budgeting on education. We'll see this article. Solving the Sterilite problem, we'll be seeing this article also. Fine, it is talking about we can actually see this article as a kind of a case study for our GS paper number 4. So we'll see this thing. Then inclusive linguistic identity. So how the present ruling government is cherishing the Sanskrit more and the Kannada is being ridiculed or is being sidelined, it has been provided in this article. Then further after that guys, much of the important articles are not there. However, this article, petition on conjugal rights, is very important article with respect to the social issues. We'll see this entire article that what is there. Then the page number 11, it is majorly containing the political issues, political trends, as the state elections are there. Please ignore this particular page, nothing is important in this thing. Then further moving on, after that the vaccine must for breaking the transmission, find the rising number of cases, okay, etc. Please remove the leave all these particular trends that are there. Now the third dose calls for higher CSR levy. So we can see that how the corporate social responsibility can be used in some of the developmental priorities. We'll see this article. Then just guys, you can see here just for a reference, see Gujarat's deep sea pipeline scheme remains a non-starter. Now just a two-liner concept is there. Basically in the Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, there are large number of industries involved in the textile, dyeing, pharmaceutical, etc. And a lot of fine sewage waste is released by these industries. Now this particular sewage waste is directly being released into the river water body. because of this particular thing, there is the ecological health of the river that has been declined. So there was a scheme that a pipeline will be established, and directly this particular pipeline will release such effluent directly into the sea, but the project has not been started. This is just the thing. But guys, just you imagine this particular thing, that a pipeline project directly releasing the effluent into the sea, will it be a wise decision? Will it be a good decision? Though it will solve the problem into the nearby region, but guys, into the long term it will again impact the ocean health. The fish yield will go down. So rather than these kind of things, there needed to be more of encompassing approach. The treatment, in situ treatment, needs to be there. Fine, sewage treatment needs to be there. So this is just one thing. Then further moving on, after that, here we can see that the Oslo talks have been mentioned. We'll see that what are these Oslo talks. Fine. Then the Beijing will test more people, nothing important. And now the Peru has declared the environmental emergency because there is an oil spill that has happened here. Guys, recently just we have seen that what happened near the Tonga. Recently there was a volcanic eruption, and because of that volcanic eruption near the Tonga, the tsunami was generated. Okay, basically the waves were generated, because of which thing, in one of a ship which was unloading the oil, it got there basically the ship that was unloading the oil, find in that there was the oil spill that happened. So just this, that a kind of a thing, nothing important. Please don't go into this particular article in detail. Then today, as the Monday is there, business page is not there. It is talking about the mutual fund SIPs, not important with respect to our examination. And then we have the sports page. So this is all about the overview of the today's articles. And now let's take these all articles one by one in the detail. Now, as we start every day with the GS quote, so today we will be taking the quote from the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says that indifferentism is the worst kind of disease that can affect the people. Indifferentism, where the people are not moved with anything, when the people they have a kind of an apathy towards the most of the pressing problems, such indifferentism is the worst kind of disease. Okay, now this particular thing can guys also be equated with one of more thinker, that is the French philosopher Montesquieu, who says this particular thing, that the apathy in a democracy or apathy in a state is worse than the tyranny of an oligarch. So the similar thing, both the Montesquieu as well as B.R. Ambedkar has provided, though citizenry needs to be active. Their indifferentism will not be serving. You can use this particular idea in GS paper number 2, in the essay, as well as in GS paper number 4. So that is about the GS code for today. Now let's take the first article. Fine. So the first article will be taking from the Indian Express explained section, reading in the subsidy bill. So by this particular article, we'll understand some of the evolving trends in the Indian economy. So therefore, it will be important for GS paper number 3. Fine, in understanding the developments in Indian economy, it will be important. Now, let's see first of all the context, first of all the background of this particular article. So guys, the background goes like this. You know this particular thing, that India is a welfarist state. India is a welfarist state. Now, in order to support the welfare, many of the developmental steps are to be taken by the government, and therefore to support the poor people on many of the goods, the subsidy is also provided by the government. And the subsidy bill of the government is one of a very big component of the entire budget. Now, over the past few days, since 2015 or 2016, we have witnessed that the subsidy bill of the government had went down. But in this financial year, again, the subsidy bill of the government, particularly on two things, that is the food and the fertilizers, has increased. Fine. So basically we can see here, just guys, that what had happened, the combined food and fertilizer subsidy bill, fine, in the revised estimates for 2021, it has been increased, and around 16.1% of the Centaur's entire budget is in the food and fertilizer subsidy. So 16% of budget is for the food and fertilizer subsidy into the year 2020-2021. So what are the reasons that again this particular trend has been reversed, again it has been increased? So let's understand the reasons into this particular direction. So basically there are the two reasons. Reason number one is that, basically, see, I will explain you certain of the basic concepts here. So we have the farmer. Now the farmer is the one who is growing the crop. Now the farmer, he is given the minimum support price on which he can so he can sell away the food crops. Now over the MSP price, let's say that the MSP is 1000 rupees. Is it clear? Now guys, what happened, the procurement will be done onto the MSP, and the food that will be procured on the MSP will be stored with the FCI, that is the Food Corporation of India. Now what happens, the food that will be stored into the Food Corporation of India, it will be used as a buffer stock. Now this buffer stock will be ensuring the food security in India, and actually the food from here will be given to the people under the public distribution system. So under the PDS, through the fair price shop, the food that was procured here will be given. Is that clear? Now we know this particular thing, that in India we have the National Food Security Act. We have the National Food Security Act, and the National Food Security Act provides that the food grains, they are to be given at a subsidized price. Nearly 75% of the population into the rural areas, 50% population into the urban areas, and at the pan India level 66% of the population is covered. They are given the food grains at a very subsidized price, that is 3 rupees kg for the rice, 2 rupees kg is there for the 2 rupees kg is there for the wheat, and rupees 1 rupees per kg is the for the coarse food grains. So highly subsidized price food grains are given. Now just understand one particular thing here. Basically the Food Corporation of India, it has an economic cost. It has an economic cost. Now what is this economic cost? You understand this particular thing, that the food is being procured, fine, so there comes one particular cost. After that, this particular food, it is being handled, it is being transported. The Food Corporation of India is transporting physically the food to the different states, who will give that food then through the PDS. So there is actually the procurement cost that is there, then the transportation cost that is there, then the storage cost is there, and many such other incidental costs are there, fine. But what is the money that we are getting? It is just 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 1 rupees. So the economic cost is very much high, and this economic cost is one where the subsidy comes in, fine. So it is like this, that suppose for 1 kg wheat, let's say the Food Corporation of India is spending, let's say 15 rupees per kg, because first of all it will procure from the farmer, then it will be storing, then will be transporting. So let's say 1 kg wheat is for 15 rupees kg to the FCI, but it is being sold at 2 rupees kg. So this 13 rupees is the difference which is to be plugged by the subsidy every year, fine. Now guys, into the past few years the subsidy bill has went down. Why the subsidy bill has went down? Let's understand this first of all. So basically guys, what had happened, whatever the money the Food Corporation of India needs, this particular money FCI borrows from the National Small Saving Fund. So the money, that 13 rupees that the FCI was incurring, it used to borrow it from the National Small Saving Fund. Now guys, what had happened in the 2020-2021, the finance minister has made an additional allocation of this particular money. Why? Because up till now, whatever the loan was taken by the FCI from this National Small Saving Fund, that particular loan has been now repaid at the one go. So earlier, into the last 5 years, what was happening, whatever the FCI was spending, that was shown within the FCI's loan only, fine. Now it has been cleared. So for that particular thing, a lot of money has been issued, and because of this particular thing, the subsidy bill has increased in this particular year, fine. So because of the loan has been cleared. Second reason that why the food subsidy bill has increased, it is because government's Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan fiscal package that was given. Now under this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan fiscal package, we know this particular thing, that the food support was given. Within this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan fiscal package, there was Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. Under this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, 5 kg additional food grains were given. 5 kg additional food grains were given apart from the already whatever was being given under the National Food Security Act. So because of this additional food grain, what happened? The additional procurement was done. Is it clear? And it further increased the cost for the FCI. So because of this particular thing also, the food subsidy bill has increased. So this is as how the why the food subsidy bill has increased. Now talking on to the next thing, that what is the scenario onto the fertilizer subsidy bill, why it has increased. Now when we talk about the fertilizer sector, there were no pending past dues that have been cleared as it was the case into the food, but it has increased, and the primary reason is the increase in the global prices. Now if we see guys, the global prices have increased. Fine, you see this particular thing, that the price for the oil and the gas have increased. Now when fertilizers are being talked about, there is a very key input in the fertilizer, that is the natural gas that is used, and as the price has increased, it is reflected into the import bill that has increased. Now just the numbers is not very much important, but just to make you understand, we can see here that today if we see the urea import today is taking around 900 to $1,000 per ton. Fine. And DAP, diammonium phosphate, it is around $900. Earlier it used to be 300 and 400. So much increase has been there, and when the landing price of the urea will increase, obviously we cannot give the expensive urea to our farmers, they are poor. So when the landing price is increasing, who is bearing this increased cost? The government is bearing this increased cost, and more subsidy is to be given to absorb this price rise that has been there. And because of this particular thing, what has happened, the fertilizer subsidy bill has also increased. Now basically the economists, they suggest that the austerity measures should be taken by India. They have suggested some of a harsh measures that is to be taken. Number one, they say that hike the PDS issue price. You are giving the grains at 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 1 rupees, increase it. Fine. So this is one thing. Then cap the grain procurement. Okay, under the MSP there is an open procurement. Now cap that open procurement to a specific limited procurement. Decontrol the urea price. Government, I told you, gives the urea at a subsidized price. Decontrol it, provide it at the market cost. Provide a fixed per ton nutrient based subsidy similar to the other fertilizers. So a nutrient based subsidy arrangement is needed to be given to the farmer. So this is all the suggestions that have come into this particular direction. Now guys, the absolute numbers etc that has been there, not at all important for your exam, but you need to understand this entire trend. Fine, that is all about it. And now we'll be moving to the next article, a proposal for the Indian Environmental Service. So basically guys, in this article we will understand the TSR Subramaniam Committee of 2014. Fine. And where this TSR Subramaniam Committee report will be important, it will be important in answers related to the GS paper number 3, environment and ecology. Fine, you can use the points that have been given here as a way forward in your answer. Fine. So let's understand first of all the context, that why this TSR Subramaniam Committee report has become important. Guys, it is because of the fact that we have already seen 2 days back the Supreme Court. What had happened? The Supreme Court has sent a notice to the central government, and the Supreme Court has asked that what has happened for the Indian Environmental Service, which was to be created as an all India service and which was suggested by the TSR Subramaniam Committee. You have not taken any decision up till now onto that particular step. So a notice has been sent to the central government. Already we have covered this particular article on the Saturday. Fine. Now let's understand what this entire TSR Subramaniam Committee report is all about. Fine. Let's understand that what is this entire TSR Subramaniam Committee is all about. So basically this TSR Subramaniam Committee, it was constituted in 2014. Fine. And the 2014 report has given much of the suggestions for the environment. It has actually suggested that all the environmental laws that are in India should be amended. What are the major changes that were suggested? The number one change that was suggested by the TSR Committee of 2014, it said that there is a need of Environmental Law Management Act, ELMA. Now this Environmental Law Management Act, this new act that will be coming, it will have 2 full-time bodies in it. There will be the NEMA, that is the National Environment Management Authority. NEMA will be created, one additional body, and then there will be one more body that is created, that is the SEMA. It stands for the State Environment Management Authority. Now these NEMA at the national level and SEMA at the state level will evaluate the project clearances, the project which might impact the environment. Such project clearances will be given, and they will use the technology and the expertise. Is it clear? So they will clear the project in a time bound manner and a single window single in a single window manner. The projects will be cleared, okay, and they will be developed under the National Environmental Law Management Act, ELMA. After that, it was provided that there also need to be a fast track approval for the projects. Fast track approval for the linear projects. Now the projects which have the road, railway and transmission line component together. So the linear projects need to be given a fast track approval. Then the fast track approval to the power and mining projects and the project of national importance. So mining, national importance, linear project, they will be given a fast track approval. This was certain which was suggested. Fine. After that, the next thing that was suggested here is was this, that basically you know that in India we have the Air Act, we have the Water Act. So this Air Act and Water Act is to be submerged under one act, that is the Environment Protection Act. So under the Environment Protection Act, it is to be submerged. Fine. This is another thing that was provided. So guys, we got one suggestion, two suggestion, three suggestions we got. Then the fourth suggestion was given is that the Central Pollution Control Board and the State Pollution Control Boards that are there, they are needed to be subsumed under the NEMA and the SEMA. So CPCB will come under the NEMA and State Pollution Control Board will come under the SEMA. Then it had also given one very good suggestion, that is the environmental reconstruction cost. So what is this environmental reconstruction cost? It has been said that every project, fine, let's say in one of a forest there is, let's say a mining project has been developed. Now obviously it will have some environmental cost. It will be impacting the air, it will be impacting the nearby water bodies. So every environment, every project needs to be assessed that what is the environment it will be impacting and what is the money to restore back that environment. So a kind of a cost estimation is to be done, and throughout the life of that particular project, that money is to be recovered through the cess, through the cess. Is it clear? So basically the cess needs to be imposed onto such kind of a thing, or a duty is to be imposed on that particular project, and money is to be recovered. Fine. So this was one thing. And then it also suggested the establishment of the National Environment Research Institute. Now this National Environment Research Institute will be developing that how the high-end technology and environmental governance in India can be reformed, how high-end technology can be used in the environmental restoration, and how environmental governance can be made more perfect. So all these were the suggestions that were given by this particular TSR Subramaniam committee report. So majorly 5 suggestions has been given, and now the 6th suggestion that was given was the development of Indian Environment Service. Indian Environment Service, which will be an all India service, clear, on the lines of IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Service. IES will be an all India service. Now already we have seen on Saturday that who can create the all India service under the Article 312 of the Indian Constitution. Rajya Sabha has the power that they can pass a resolution by the 2/3 of the majority present and voting. So if the 2/3 of the majority present and voting votes, then all India service can be created. Fine. So this is the suggestion that was given. Now the Supreme Court has asked the center that okay, what about this IES you had not created up till now? Now what was the status of this TSR Subramaniam committee report? Government had not accepted it in 2014. Government said that the reform that has been suggested by the TSR, it will negatively impact the environment. So it was not suggested then, and up till now therefore nothing has happened into this particular thing. But guys, these points are actually very good. Fine, you can write them as your own way forward in the answers. So that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. A need for shared parenting. Okay, so this particular article first of all will be important in GS paper number 1, issues related to the Indian society, as well as it will be important in GS paper number 2, within the social justice, and within the social justice the issues related to the vulnerable sections of Indian society. Now the children are one of the segments under the vulnerable section. So with respect to the children, this article will be important. Now let's understand that what has been the issue. First of all, let's understand the context or the background. Let's understand the context of the background. So basically, let's say there's a husband, then there is a wife, and they have one kid. Okay, so who is the guardian? The parents are the guardian over the kid. The parents are the guardian over the kid. Not at all a problem. But what will happen if there is a dispute between the husband and the wife? If there is a dispute, then the guardianship of this particular child, it will go to whom? Whether it will go to the father or whether it will go to the mother. It is a problem that is there. Guys, let's say both the husband and the mother, they have died, let's say in one of a car accident. Then what will happen? There will be another guardian who can be appointed for this particular kid. So the guardianship of the children has been a particular matter that is very important in order to ensure the well-being of the children. Now let's understand that what is the arrangement right now in India to deal with this particular thing. So guys, we have actually two of the laws in India. One is the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956 and other is the Guardian and Wards Act of 1890. Now these two acts, that is the Hindu Minority Guardianship Act and the Guardian and Wards Act of 1890, deal with the matters of custody of children. If both the parents die, there could be a third guardian that could be appointed by a court. If both of the parent died, a third guardian can be appointed by a court. And if a dispute between the husband and wife is there, then to one of a parent, the guardianship will be given. Okay, it can be given either to a father, it can be given either to a mother. However, if a child is up till 5 years of age, till then it is preferred that it should be given to mother only. Fine. However, if the child is more than 5 years, then either of the father and the mother can get it. Clear? Now one of the parent will get the guardianship and the other parent will be given the visitation. Other parent will be given the visitation means that he will be allowed to meet the child in few days, in let's say once in a month or twice in a month. So just visitation can be given to the other parent. Now where these things have been dealt, I told you, under the Hindu Minority and the Guardians and Wards Act of 1890. Now see this particular thing. Basically this thing becomes a messy affair. In India, only one parent can be given a guardianship. However, when we see the countries such as the US, UK and Australia, fine, the shared guardianship can be there. But in India, the shared guardianship is not there. Only one parent can given the guardianship. Now, this is the entire background first of all. Now comes one more important question, that why we are discussing it now suddenly. We are discussing because guys, just a few days back in 2022, the Supreme Court had given one particular judgment for this guardianship, that is the Vasundhara Sethi and Kiran V. Bhaskar case. So the Supreme Court has given one of our judgment here. So therefore this shared guardianship concept becomes very important, and on such kind of a line, a question in GS1 and GS paper number 2 can come. Now see this particular thing. Now you need to understand that guys, whenever the children's guardianship is considered in a case when the breakdown of marriage has happened between the father and the mother, there comes the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Children. Now this United Nations Convention says that whenever the decision is to be taken, the best interest of the child is needed to be considered. Now what is this best interest of the child? It means that you are giving the guardianship or anything is happening, we need to make sure that the fulfillment of the basic rights of the children is there. The child's needs, his identity, his social well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being, intellectual development, it is needed to be given the most importance whenever any dispute between the husband and the wife is being settled. Now guys, the best interest of the child as suggested by the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child has been adopted by India also. Clear? Now basically what will happen in the case of guardianship? So guys, even into the matters of the guardianship, the Supreme Court now in 2022 has provided this thing, that when the guardianship is to be given, again the child's welfare is the most important thing. The individual or personal right of one of a parent is not important, the child's welfare is more important. Now in this particular direction guys, I told you that right now what happens, one of the parent can be given the guardianship. Okay, now this thing has created a problem for the children. Now few years back, in the Vivek Singh Romani Singh judgment, Justice A.K. Sikri provided a very important concept, the concept of parental alienation syndrome. He talked on to the concept of the parental alienation syndrome. Now what is this parental alienation syndrome? According to this, the the children whose parents get divorced, and I told you that only one of the parent will be given the guardianship. So what happens, the children, they start to develop, they start to dislike the other parent who has not been given the guardianship, and this dislike increases so much that the kids, they don't want even to meet the other parent. Now into this particular thing, the other parent will be losing his or her parenthood. And the second problem that comes here is that it is traumatizing for the child himself or herself. Fine, the trauma, the emotional trauma, fine, it is very much negative for the child. So the child needs to be given the shared guardianship. Clear? However, up till now the shared guardianship is not there in India. Why? Because both of these acts, that is the Hindu Minority Act and the Guardian Wards Act of 1890, talks only about the guardianship of one parent. Now in the times of the pandemic, the problem has increased even more. Why the problem has increased into the pandemic? Because guys, as the lockdown was there, the visitation rights of the other parent were not given by the guardian parent. So therefore now we need to amend the law, and by the amendment of a law, the provisions are needed to be provided to give the shared guardianship in India on the lines of the US and UK. Fine, even the law commission had suggested this thing. So we have the Law Commission report of 2015, which has provided that the shared guardianship and the shared custody in the case of India is needed to be explored. So this is all the things that have come into this particular direction. So guys, an important and a conceptual article. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Now, again, there is one more article which is very important with respect to the social issues, GS paper number 1, and the issues related to the women, GS paper number 2. So a very important article. Now this article is talking about the conjugal rights. Fine. Now let's understand this particular article. First of all, I will tell you some of the background so that we can understand this article in more clear manner. See, there is a husband, there is a wife. Now the husband and wife, by the virtue of the marriage that has happened between them, they will stay together. However, let's say there is a case that the wife goes away and she is living in, let's say, some other house. Let's say she relocates and now she is living separately with the husband, or let's say that the husband relocates and now the husband is living separately from the wife. What will happen into this particular thing? So in India, by the virtue of law, that is the Hindu Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act, there are certain powers with the husband and wife. So what powers they have? They can they can visit to a court, they can go to a court and can ask for the restoration of the conjugal rights. Now what is this restoration of conjugal rights? If the wife is living separately, then husband can go to the court, and if husband is living separately, the wife can go to the court and they can ask the court that you order our another spouse that they should come back and should live with us. So this is the restoration of the conjugal rights. Now if you look on the face, it will look that okay, it is a gender neutral law. Both the husband and the wife can approach to the court and can ask for the restoration of the conjugal right. There is not at all a problem. But guys, there is a deep problem into this particular thing. The problem comes like this, that number one, if we see in India, you know that the marital rape is not criminalized. So what happened? Let's say if the wife's bodily autonomy was being violated by the husband through the sexual intercourse, and if the wife has moved to a different location, then the husband can call her back through the court order. And if the wife doesn't comes back, then the provision of the law provides that thing, that the wife's property can be attached if the wife is not coming back. Now the court can order the wife to come back, and then there again the marital rape will happen. So now this is, though the law is gender neutral, but actually the application of law is such that the women are suffering here. So this is one problem that is there. Then second thing is that basically the conjugal rights are being restored by the court. Is it ethical in the modern societies? Now guys, many times this particular thing can be used against the fundamental rights also. If we talk about the fundamental rights in India, the freedom of association is there, the freedom to reside anywhere in the country is there, and the freedom to practice a profession is there, which is given under the fundamental rights, article number 19. You all might be knowing this thing. Now let's say if the woman is staying in the another city because she is doing a job there, so As she is doing the job, she has a right to do profession, she has a right to reside anywhere, but she can be called back by the restoration of the conjugal rights. So what happens here? Again, the rights are being violated. Now guys, even with respect to the conjugal rights, the courts had given very regressive kind of judgments into the past. So two of the judgment, if we talk about the Punjab and Haryana High Court, the Punjab and Haryana High Court in the Tirath Kaur case had provided this thing, that it is the wife's first duty, that a first duty of a wife is to her husband, and the wife should submit herself obediently to the authority of the husband. Is it clear? The wife should remain under the husband's roof and protection. So what had happened? The wife had been shown subservient to the husband. The wife has been shown as a commodity of the husband. One thing. Second thing is that even the Supreme Court into the Saroja Rani case had provided this thing, that right of the husband or wife to one another's society is inherent in the very institution of marriage. Just if they have married, they have to stay together. Now this particular thing, guys, is going against the bodily autonomy. It is going against the bodily autonomy. It is going against the bodily integrity. It is going against their freedom to choose whether to stay or whether not to choose. It is all going against all these particular things. And even there are other Supreme Court judgments also that had come. Now the Supreme Court had said into the Joseph Shine judgment that the state cannot interfere in a person's private affair. And then even came the Puttaswamy case. Even came the Puttaswamy case. So the Puttaswamy case, we have seen that the right to privacy was talked about. And now it is a matter of your privacy, that whether you want to stay with your husband or your wife or not. Now all these particular things are being violated. So therefore what had happened? The petition has been filed in the Supreme Court. The petition has been filed in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is being asked that you please remove this restoration of conjugal rights that is there in the India. But up till now, the Supreme Court has not taken any decision. But guys, this is a very, very sensitive issue that comes here, and with respect to GS1 and GS paper number 2, it becomes very important for us. Fine. So that is all about it. And now moving to the next article. Okay, meanwhile, good morning to everybody. Good morning, Pallavi, Sunanda, Sandeep, SS. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Now, the next article that we are taking is the elephant corridors to be restored in the South Bengal. Now, see, not particularly about the Bengal, this article is relevant, fine, but there is one important theme that we can learn from this particular article, that is the man and animal conflict. Fine. So with respect to the GS paper number 3, it will give you some of a understanding. Now, see this particular thing, guys. We find this thing, that the development often becomes intrusive. Development becomes intrusive. Now in order to accommodate the rising population, what happens? We basically interfere into the forest. Fine, the development is carried into the forest. Many times, if the mainstream development is not being carried for the infrastructural projects, the forest, they are crisscrossed, the highways, fine, the other infrastructure projects, they are cut through the forest. Now this particular thing disturbs the habitat of the animal, and let's say if the city is expanding into the forest, what will happen? The animal will obviously be coming to the natural geography with where they will be living, and when they find the man there, what happens? The conflict happens, and we call it as man and animal conflict. Fine. Now into the man and animal conflict, if we see the conflict with the elephant, it has increased a lot into the past few years, and according to the data between 2014 and 2019, there are 2381 human deaths which were recorded because of the confrontation with the elephant. Okay, number is again not important. You can just recall that more than 2300 deaths have happened. So what it shows? It shows that over the years, the man animal conflict, man elephant conflict has increased. And why reason is that the man is intruding into the habitat of the elephant. So there is a need that the elephant corridors, elephant habitats need to be restored. Fine. So the degradation that has happened. Now why the degradation had happened? It has happened because of the increased agricultural activity into the forest. It has also happened because of the joint forest management, community forestry. Now into the joint forest management, the government and the communities, fine, they are coming together and they are managing the forest. But into the name of joint forestry management, what they are doing? They are doing the commercialization of the forest. Fine, they are doing the commercialization of forest. They are further exploiting the forest. Now these particular things brings the problem of its own, and again the man animal or the man elephant conflict, it increases. So therefore now in the South Bengal, the kind of a movement is going on, that the elephant corridors needed to be restored. Fine. So this is actually a pan India phenomena that has been there. So that is all about it, nothing more than this. Fine. And now we'll be moving to the next article. Budgeting for the education emergency. Now this article will be important in GS paper number 2, issues related to the education. Issues related to the education. Fine. Now see this particular thing. We know this particular thing, that the education has been one of the most important developmental priority for India. Now when we see actually the spending onto the education, it is find that the most of the states, they are spending very less onto the education. Now India comes into the middle income countries, but some of the states are not spending onto the level of the spending which is done into the other middle income countries. The most of the states into the India, they spend in the range of 2.5 to 3.1% of the state income onto the education. Is it clear? Now it is less when compared to the other lower middle income countries. Now other lower middle income countries, they are spending around 4.3% of their GDP. In India, majority of the states, they are spending 2.2 2.5 to 3.1% of the GDP. Is it clear? Now the World Bank has provided that actually the low income countries, they have increased their income or their spending also, but India has not increased, though India comes into the middle income group countries. Now, according to the budget of according to the 2021-2022 budget, the central government's allocation for the education department has actually been reduced. Though the budget's size in total had increased, but the allocation for the education department has been reduced. Fine, this is the thing. Now it has been provided that many of the states, many of the big states, fine, their state budget allocation for the education department, either it has remained same with the last year or it has been reduced. So the states are not spending much, they are not doing much for the education. Now it has been said that education system now needs infusion of more resources for many years. Why? Because the impact of the COVID-19 that has come, now the retention rate will go down, the learning outcomes will go down, so therefore even more funding, more infusion of the money is needed. If we see particularly the condition of the poor and the disadvantaged children, if we see the condition of the poor and the disadvantaged children, the majority of these children, they are involved into the preschool, they are involved into the government schools, but the condition of government schools, preschools is not very much good. So in order to accommodate them, better infrastructure and better funding is to be given into the government schools. So there have been provided that basically now the government's focus should be oriented on all these particular things. What are these? Number one, back to school campaigns should be started. Enrollment, re-enrollment drives needed to be started so that the children who had dropped, they can come back to the schools. Then we need to expand the nutritional program to address the malnutrition. Now the nutritional outcomes have become impacted because around 2 years the schools have been closed, so nutritional programs need to be expanded. Again, the money is needed for this particular thing. Then we need to reorganize the curriculum to help the children in learning language, mathematics, and in order to build the social emotional development. Clear? And therefore the revised pedagogy, revised curriculum into the school is also needed. Then additional learning materials, teacher training and support is needed to be given to the children because of the learning gaps that had come because of the pandemic. This thing will also require more of a funding that should be given for the education. Then additional education program, fine, increased instructional time during vacations and weekend is to be given to make up the learning loss that had happened. And again, for this thing, more teachers, more human resources to be hired, so therefore money is to be given. Then additional teachers, teaching aids, fine, are to be required, and collection of the analysis of data or the collection of data also needs to be there for the education. So all these particular things we need to have more of a money. Now according to the UNESCO's 2030 framework for action, it suggests that the public spending onto the education, fine, between basically it needs to be around 4 to 6% of the GDP and 15 to 20% of the public expenditure. So we need to increase to 4 to 6% of GDP, but right now we are not at that particular level, so we need to expand. Moreover, it has been said that guys, if we see as a part of a budget, India spends around 14.1% of its total budget on education. Fine. Now the total budget and GDP are different things. So total budget's 14.1% part is being spent onto the education by India. However, the Vietnam, it spends 18.5% and to Indonesia it spends 20.6%. Now India having more population, India having more backwardness, actually need to spend much more than that, around 21-22%, but we are spending just 14.1% of budget, so it needs to be increased. Then the next thing is there that actually there is also a lot of opposite opacity on the education finance also. If we see the economic survey of 2020-2021, the economic survey said that in 2018-19, 2.8% of the India's GDP was being spent onto the education. But if we see the data from the Ministry of Education, it said that the into the same time 4.3% of the GDP fine has been spent onto the education. So who is saying the truth? Fine, it is not clear. Multiple datas are there. So the question onto the data also needs to be made clear, and much more spending clearly is to be given for the education. So all these are the things that have been talked into this particular article. So guys, much of important elements or much of the important dimensions have been given. Fine, that is all about it. And now we'll move to the next article, solving the Sterilite problem. Now this particular article is a potential case study for our GS paper number 4. It could be a potential case study for our GS paper number 4. Now guys, let's understand that what is the issue. So basically in the Tamil Nadu, there was a Sterilite copper plant. Now the Sterilite copper plant was there. Now this particular plant has become a moral issue because there are certain problems that have been there. Over the last 20 years till 2018, over the last 20 years, there have been large number of complaints against this Sterlite copper plant. It has been said that the company had violated the pollution regulations. Fine, there have been the excessive emissions that have been released by this Sterlite plant, and against that particular thing, the protests have also been held. It has been said that silently the company needs to release they needs to release the toxic gas around 3 a.m. in the morning. People, they got suffocated. The breathing problems were there. They were also releasing the effluents into the groundwater. The groundwater became undrinkable. Fine, even the kettles were not drinking it. Fine, so all these particular things were there. And when the people were protesting, what happened? 13 people, they were fired in 2018. 13 of the protesters, they were fired, they were killed. So basically this Sterlite copper plant was then closed down, and as it has been closed down, it say that now the air have become cleaner. Fine, the air have become cleaner. So on one hand, this Sterlite plant, it was actually operating in an immoral way. It was violating the environment. It was violating the health of the people. So this was one angle that comes here. However guys, then here comes the second angle. Here comes the second angle then. The second angle is that the Sterlite, it was producing the copper, and copper is actually a strategic metal. Fine, in the energy, electrical equipment, electronics, the copper is a very important thing. Today we are switching to the wind energy, solar energy, because of the global warming constraints that are there, and energy transmission will happen through the transmission lines, and the transmission lines, they need copper. Fine, now globally, basically India was a exporter of copper, but now we have become the importer of the copper. Is it clear? So therefore we further need to enhance the copper, and the Sterlite plant needs to be started because it is a strategic metal. Then it has been provided that in the world there are more than 120 copper smelters, and one of them was in India, but now it has been shut down. Fine, all the major copper consuming countries, they have their own copper smelters within the country. Is it clear? So onto that particular line also, the Sterlite plants needed to be reoperated. Then next, it has been said that large number of people who were getting the employment from the Sterlite plant, their employment has lost down. So thousands of jobs have been compromised. Real estate and the local business, they have also been suffering. Even the lorry ecosystem, the transportation ecosystem into the region, it has suffered a lot. Now as this particular closure was going on, the Madras High Court had made a very important observation. Now this particular observation was also in line with the B.R. Ambedkar's observation on economy and environment debate. So Madras High Court, it had said that when economy is pitted against the environment, environment will reign supreme, and said that no, Sterlite plant will not be opened up. Now see, what is the dilemma that has come here? The dilemma has come here is like this, that on one hand there are the violations of this particular violations that this particular plant had uh, went for, the excessive emissions, fine, but it was supporting the economy, it was supporting the livelihood, fine. Now what you will do, let's say you are a decision maker, what you will do, will you give more precedence to economy, livelihood of the people and the strategic need of India, which is actually very much important in the present time, or will you be keeping the environmental concern more into the regard? What will be your answer into this particular line? Now guys, whatever answer you want to give, there is one thinking line that could be there. You need to come out with a framework for a solution which focus on both the adherence to the norms and basically also the regard for the people. So a kind of a balanced approach is needed to be taken. So guys, the ethical issues that are there, it could be a possible thing, the solution could be a possible thing. Now here, however, I strongly believe that you should take the deontology more into the consideration, the deontology more in the consideration. Is it clear? And a balanced approach could be taken like this, that the plant could be started, but it will be started by involving more of the obligations, more of a liability on a company, fine, that is about it. And now we'll move to the next article. A chance to support growth, fiscal consolidation. Now this particular article guys, it is talking about the present state of Indian economy. See, first of all, please don't go too much in detail into this particular article. Why? Because it is talking about a lot of the numbers onto the basis of advanced economic estimates that have been just released. But guys, these numbers will just be changing after the budget, so therefore such of all these numbers and data will become irrelevant for our exam, which will be held later. However, some of the themes are there which we can understand here. So basically it has been said that guys, first of all, see this thing. India's real GDP in 2021-2022 has been estimated at 9.2%. Earlier it was estimated that it will grow at 9.5%. IMF and RBI projected it 9.5, but it had happened to be 9.2%. So there is the basically 30 basis points lower. The real actually GDP is 30 basis point lower. Now the Omicron scare has still not been accommodated, and if we actually accommodate the Omicron and the lockdown and the economic disruptions that had come, it will go anywhere around 9%. So therefore it has been said that what are the government priority right now? The government priority right now is there that government need to focus on two things. Number one, the consumption is to be increased, and second, the investment demand is to be increased. So government should work on increasing the investment. Secondly, the investment is to be increased, and thirdly, the government needs to go for the fiscal consolidation. Now let's understand all these particular things. Number one, talking about the investment. So when we talk about the investment, government had come out with the national infrastructure pipeline. Now this national infrastructure pipeline, it is the 102 lakh crore rupees project that was initiated by the government, and government said that 102 lakh crore rupees will be invested in developing the social and economic infrastructure project all over the India in the next 5 years. Now basically government needed to reassess this national infrastructure pipeline, and only it is needed to be used in such a way that the maximum benefit it can provide. A substantial part of this national infrastructure pipeline should be oriented towards the health infrastructure also. Is it clear? This is one thing that has been happened. Second thing, let's talk about the consumption. So onto the consumption, it has been said that in India the consumption is down. Fine. Why? Because the people simply cannot consume, they are not having the income, they are not having the money. Now into the rural areas, we have the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MG Narega, and by the MG Narega people have been given some income and they are actually making some consumption. But in urban India no such counterpart is there. So therefore it has been said that we need to form an urban counterpart of the MG Narega, fine, by which the people in the times of COVID-19 can be supported. So by this particular thing, the consumption will be there. And then the third comes is the fiscal consolidation. Now first of all, what do we mean by the fiscal consolidation? Fiscal consolidation refers to the government policy where government will be working to reduce their deficit, to reduce the debt that the government is taking. Now as the COVID-19 pandemic is there, for the fiscal stimulus, a lot of government debt is being taken. So fiscal consolidation, reduction of the government debt needs to be there. In this particular direction, we have the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission. So So 15th Finance Commission has suggested that the fiscal consolidation path is to be taken, and by 2022-2023 government need to aspire that the fiscal deficit is around 5.5% of GDP. Fine, maximum 5.5% of GDP by 2022-2023, and then the stepwise reduction of 0.5 point per year is needed to be there, and we need to go to 4% of the GDP by 25-26. So the total debt that is India is having, it should be 4% of India's GDP by 25-26, and maximum it can be 5.5% of GDP by 2022-2023, and after that 0.5 percentage reduction every year is to be done. So these are the three major recommendations that have been suggested into this particular article. Fine, so that is all about it. However guys, please ignore all the numbers and data that have been there because they will change. So that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, see this particular thing, there are the two articles, a stellar fallacy. Now this particular article is talking about the State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. So we have seen this particular thing, that the cabinet has proposed that the state authorities, fine, they will be rated, the states which are clearing fastly the environmental projects, they will be given better rating, they will be given a better score. Is it clear? And the ones who are delaying the environmental clearances, they will be given a poor score. Now this particular thing has become a kind of a problematic thing, because into this particular manner, just in order to improve their ranking in a kind of a hushed up manner, the environmental projects will be cleared. Fine. Now this second article, the false dichotomy, it says, it talks about the recent Supreme Court's observation, where they say that the reservation is not against the equity, rather reservation will create the social equity in India. Fine, the substantive equity will be created where actually the people will get the benefit. Now both of these articles on the Saturday, just the day before yesterday, we have covered in much elaborate way. Is it clear? A very holistic coverage already has been done. The same thing, exactly the same thing is repeated again into these particular articles. So you can please refer to the Saturday's newspaper discussion. Even the timestamp is there where you can directly go to both of these particular articles. So already we have discussed it. Fine. So no point in repeating the same thing. Fine. If you have seen already, not at all a problem. That will be the thing. Now moving to the next article. Taliban Afghan civil society members begins Oslo talks. Now we see this particular thing, that the Taliban had acquired the power in the Afghanistan. Now as they got the power in Afghanistan, now they want that the world countries should recognize the Taliban. Now the world countries, they have snapped the diplomatic relation, their funding has been seized, no country is giving them the aid, so they want that they should be recognized, and therefore now they are reaching to the different countries, and in this direction the Oslo talks have been started. The Oslo talks have been started. Now what has happened in the Oslo talks? Basically the Taliban delegation had visited the Europe, the Oslo, and there they will be meeting the Afghan civil society members, and they will be discussing with the civil society members the human right abuse that has been there, the dignity of the women which is being compromised into the Afghanistan. So women activists, human right activists will all with all of them, they will be meeting, and the Afghanistan will give an assurance into this Oslo talk to the human right groups, civil societies and women groups, that they will make sure this particular thing, that the rights are not being violated in Afghanistan. And this is just an attempt in to the world countries that they should recognize the Taliban government in Afghanistan. Is it clear? Further, the Taliban will also meet the representatives of the USA, France, Britain, Germany, Italy, European Union. So this is just an attempt to get their legitimacy recognized. Fine. So this is just thing that it will happen, nothing more than that. And now we'll move to the next article. Now guys, this particular article can be important for GS paper number 4, the corporate governance and utilization of the CSR, corporate social responsibility. Now as a part of the CSR, the Companies Act, see there is in India we have the Companies Act 2013, and the Companies Act 2013 has one section, that is a section number 135. Now section 135 puts an obligation onto the corporate that if they are earning a profit or a revenue, or if their net worth is above a particular level, Fine. So if their net worth or if their revenue or if their profit is above a particular level, they had to contribute the 2% of their profit. They have to contribute the 2% of their profit as a CSR. The money will be spent into the development, into the socio-economic justice, etc. Now, the Confederation of Indian Industry, it has said that because now the pandemic is coming, 1% additional CSR should be imposed. Additional 1% CSR should be imposed for the next 12 months. And the money which will be imposed, additional 1% CSR which is being imposed, that particular money can be used for giving the third booster dose to the people. So tax the corporate and use the money for the doses. So this can be a very good suggestion. It will bring the ethical corporate governance, and as the corporate uses the resources of a society, there is a moral responsibility to pay back, and in the times of pandemic, such thing will be a good gesture onto the part of the corporates. That thing has been provided into this particular article. So guys, just as a one liner concept, if you are writing onto the CSR, we can mention about this particular reference. Fine. So that is all about this particular thing. So guys, with this we come to an end to the today's newspaper analysis. I hope that you are understanding it and you are liking the initiative. So that is all for today. Thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow at the same time, that is a 6:30 a.m. in the morning live. So that is all for today. Thank you so much.